All right, that's enough about the games. Let's talk about technology before we wrap things up. Let's talk about the PS1 itself. The PS1's two versions they have, which was the traditional system that everyone's used to seeing, and then the one that's titled PSone, PS1, which is the smaller mini version. We need to talk about it being 3D for this first time, the controllers, the analog controllers, the dual shock controllers, the memory cards, the multitap, all the stuff. What are your thoughts about any of those things, Wes? Where do you want to start?
Man, I would go with the 3D technology because it was revolutionary at the time. Rumor has it that Sega got scared. They were putting out their Saturn and got a hold of the specs for the PlayStation and then went back, because initially the Saturn was supposed to be a 2D powerhouse. It would run 2D games better than anything on the planet. And they saw that. Then they saw that Sony was going to be big on 3D. So Sega went back and slapped some 3D chips on the board of the Saturn, and we got what we got. That's why the 3D games on the Saturn all look like garbage.
Is this also why the Saturn is so hard to emulate for? I know like recently people just started becoming able to emulate some stuff for Saturn, but do you think that's the reason why?
Possibly, because the technology in the Sony PlayStation was top notch, man. It did transparencies well. It did 3D renders well, and the Saturn, you could tell because it didn't do transparencies at all. It looked like you were looking through wire mesh. It was bad. It was really bad. But on the 2D front, you couldn't beat it. You could not beat it on, like, Street Fighter games played phenomenal on the Saturn. I mean, over time they learned to work with the technology, because we got Virtua Fighter 2, we got Fighting Vipers, we got some quality 3D games on the Saturn, but the PlayStation blew it out of the water, literally.
Not only that, it was probably easier to develop for on the PlayStation as opposed to the Saturn. I'd imagine it was probably cheaper to develop on the PlayStation than the Saturn, just because it was less complicated to. So they had to pay people less. So I mean, monetarily, not only was it more time consuming, you're going to save money by developing on PlayStation. Even when you look at the N64, now it's starting to make sense, right? It's cheaper to develop for. It's easier to develop for. Why are you going to develop on the N64? Why are you going to develop on the Saturn? Develop on PlayStation. If you want to run it on a PC, it's probably the closest thing to a PC at the time. Which now, if you look at, like, from the I would say from the PS4 generation up, PS4 and Xbox are just like computers.
Yeah.
And it's just to make things easier for the developers. PS3 was really the last time you saw a system try to do something like absolutely insane, and it bit them in the ass, because they can't even emulate PS3 games correctly. When you use PlayStation Now and you're playing a PlayStation 3 game, guess what you're doing? You're pinging a server, and somewhere that server's touching a PlayStation 3, and they're playing that game on a PlayStation 3 somewhere. That's how it's being emulated right now. It's not being emulated like in a true sense of emulation, which is insane. Sony must have warehouses of PS3s for you to be able to play them today.
Probably.
It's nuts.
And then we had the controllers. It took a minute to get used to the original PlayStation analog PlayStation controller. Well, not the analog. The regular one was non-analog.
Right. It was I think it was just the controller. It was all
just the controller.
PlayStation controller.
It was a little small. Took a little minute to get used to it, but
feels a little cheap.
It did. And then, but you got used to it and you lived with it.
You did.
And then they added analog sticks.
Change the game, man.
Change the game.
Change the game. Analog sticks. I mean, you went from the N64. I understand people have a hard problem with that one stick. Once you got those two sticks on PlayStation, it was like, oh my God, man, you can move the camera with one, your character with the other. Good.
It made 3D movement a household word.
Yep. They made mistakes with the PSP. They went back to one analog stick with the PSP. Eventually they corrected that with the Vita.
Correct, with the two.
Right. But it's like, what what the hell were you thinking? I know people love the PSP. I'm not trying to crap on the PSP at all, but it's like I just don't understand how you would go backwards, which is baffling to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to control it with 2 analogs and then you go back to 1, but then they added the DualShock because the original analog didn't have rumble.
Now the DualShock's when it got really good because you went from this light controller to a little bit heavier with the 2 sticks to finally there's like some rumble, but not even the rumble. I don't give a crap about the rumble. The controller was heavier and it felt right. You needed that rumble just for it to feel like something, it has a little weight to it.
Yep.
Now that controller is a fantastic controller.
That was a great controller. And Sony's kind of kept that formula throughout the rest of the generations.
Until PS5.
Until PS5.
Yeah. And then they had that hiccup on PS3 when they made that dual, when it wasn't called dual, it was called a 6-axis. That was some terrible ass controller. Oh my God. That thing felt like a piece of paper in my hand. It was so light and so, I felt like I was going to break. I was afraid to touch a button on that controller. I felt like I was going to break it. And then PS4 went back to like, even in late PS3, they eventually brought like a DualShock controller and that kind of corrected the problem. Yep. But PS5, they really, really changed the controller with PS5. And that controller is something special.
I'll find out eventually.
You need to play your PS5, Wes. And before you even bother buying a game, you probably already have games, but the first game you need to play is installed on your PlayStation.
Oh, is that little Playroom something?
Astro's Playroom?
Yes.
It's still my favorite PS5 game to this day. That game is phenomenal. Phenomenal. It shows you first off, it has a huge history of PlayStation behind it. It really makes you nostalgic for PlayStation. That's great. But it also uses that controller better than any other game has used that controller to date.
Okay. Whenever I hook up my PS5, I know it's pre-installed, I'll play it. Someone else mentioned that game too, so.
Wes, you got to do it. It's so good. So good. 3D platforming at its finest.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
So those are the controllers for PS1, analog. You got your DualShock on there. This was a crappy era because we had memory cards. I hate memory cards. The reason why I hate memory cards is for any of you who have ever had a corrupted memory card, everyone.
Yep.
You lose your save. It's terrible. Had the problem on N64. By the time I got my PS1, which was later, I already knew about only buying the first party memory card, so I was able to avoid that problem on PS1. But if you bought a third-party memory card, sometimes even a first-party, you would eventually get a corrupted file and you would completely lose your save.
Yep. And not only that save,
everything
on the card.
Thank God we don't have to deal with that anymore. Thank God we have hard drives. Can you imagine if they're like, here's a memory card. You're only going to get to use a memory card, even though memory cards are a lot more reliable now. Just from that history, it's like, no, I don't want a memory card. What are you doing? No. Get shit out of here.
Nope. Oh, man. That was all your games gone. You just have to start over. And half the times you're like so frustrated, you don't even touch them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that even happened in the next generation. PS2 had third-party memory cards. Same problems. GameCube had third-party memory cards. Same problems. You had to buy first party. And even then, you were still gambling.
True.
So I'm nostalgic for the look of the memory card and popping it in. It's like, oh, that's cool. It's a satisfying feeling. Putting a PS1 memory card into a PS1 is like, oh, that's nice. Till your memory gets deleted. Then it's not nice.
And it's not nice anymore.
Finally, we had the multitap. The multitap allowed you to play 4 players. This was a mistake on PlayStation's part because this is something where N64 just kicked its ass. N64 had way better multiplayer games. They had so many multiplayer games where you could do 4-player split screen. I'm talking about Bond. I'm talking about Mario Kart, things like that. Yes, PlayStation had a lot of great fighting games for 2 people, which was fantastic. But that multitap did not get a lot of use. There was not a huge amount of games that supported the multitap, and I can't think of many that are that notable. What about you?
I can't think of any. I think the sports titles I think EA supported it because you could do the sports titles and have multiple players on that. But outside of that, I can't think of anything else.
Nothing really that's notable that I can think of. I'm sure you guys can think about some. So if you can think of any, please write in and let us know what we forgot that was decent or good for the multitap, because we don't know. I never used one, not on PS1 anyway. Finally, we have the PS1, which was the mini version. Mm-hmm. Many of these versions came with a screen. Do you have this version, and what do you think of it?
I do. I have the PS1 that came with the screen, because you could buy it without the screen, and then the screen was separate, or they did the bundle. You know, it's cool. It's a PlayStation.
It is.
It's a PlayStation. It's a portable PlayStation. I remember taking it on road trips, you know, with the kids, and you know, it was a good bathroom toy. It was, you know, it did its job.
This is one of the gaming regrets I have in my life, because I worked at either GameStop or EB Games, whatever the hell it was at the time. It's probably EB. And we had stacks of them in the back. Like this was right before Christmas, and they put them on clearance. They were like $50 with the screen, the system and the screen, $50. And I was like, I think PS2 was probably already out of that time. I was like, dude, I can just go buy a PS2 game for $50. Like, I'm not gonna buy that stupid ass system. And now looking back, like, oh man, I should have bought one of those for $50. What the hell was I thinking?
Yeah, it was cool.
They were a cute little smaller version of the system, and had, you know, the screen just flipped up. It was awesome. It was awesome.
You could just take it anywhere, play it on the dining room table. You had its own TV built in. It did its job for what it was meant to do.
Its screen was pretty decent at the time as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Definitely. So shout out to those of you who still have your PS1 mini, as some people call it. All right, guys. So that's all we have for you today, covering how PlayStation changed the game. These are the titles and, you know, the things that really made PlayStation what it was in the beginning and what it now is today. Thank you guys for watching the show. We definitely appreciate it. Wes, where can people find you?
Again, you can find me at Level Up Entertainment in the Jersey Shore, Hamilton Mall, Mays Landing, Summers Point, New Jersey. And you can follow me on Instagram at Grendel5XBX.
Awesome. If you guys want to follow me, it's at from NJ2CA. The 2 is a number 2. Please follow the company also. We're at Nerdthusiast on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can follow us on all those things. Facebook as well. We got a Facebook page up there. Make sure you guys check out some of our other shows. We cover all sorts of different topics. We got poker shows. We got shows covering movies, music, all sorts of different things. Check out Nerdthusiast for that. Don't forget to support us over on Patreon if you enjoyed what you heard today. Patreon.com/Nerdthusiast. You guys can get exclusive videos over there every single month from a variety of our creators, including us. We do new stuff on there all the time. In fact, we're about to do one right when this show ends. So make sure you subscribe over there. Thank you guys for watching the show. We really do appreciate your support. So thank you guys. Wes, you have any final comments before we head out?
Yeah, I enjoy what we do. You know, it comes through the passion we have for our games. And, you know, we've talked about PlayStation today. So you guys sharing your comments, your fond memories of the PlayStation, what you loved, what you missed. We love to hear from you.
Yeah, let us know. Drop a comment in our YouTube videos, on our socials, whatever you guys want to do. Let us know your love for PlayStation. All right. So until next time, you guys take care.
Have a good one.